Let's be real, life is messy. We all wrestle with loneliness, guilt, and shame.
Having a supportive community and the right resources can make all the difference.
That's why we started Healing Unscripted.
We're just three friends on a mission to bring hope and healing.
Whether you're struggling yourself or walking alongside someone who is,
We're diving deep into the hard stuff.
with insightful guests, real talk, and a whole lot of heart. Join us on Healing Unscripted.
Yay, we're here with Scott. Welcome to our podcast of Healing Unscripted.
Thank you so much for having me.
We met Scott and his beautiful family at church when we first moved to Steamboat. And Jeff just fell in love with Scott. Just thought he was like the greatest dude ever. And now he's in our high school and around all of our kids. And we're really happy about that. So thanks again for coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we like you too. Somehow our family's gotten connected with him too. And he is, I'm going to list a few things about Scott, but because he was a chef, apparently he's like a barbecue master.
I did know that.
Yeah. So that's on his list. So everybody, welcome Scott.
Did you bring anything?
I did not. I came straight from work.
He's
Okay.
like direct
So I don't
here
I don't
today.
believe you. I'm gonna
Test
question.
you.
Yeah, I'm gonna question that one until I'm proven that different. You have the best
He
barbecue.
really can cook.
Yeah.
Challenge on.
We were going to have him and Patrick try to do a barbecue smoking meat, like
A
cook-
pig roast.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
fun.
want a real, like probably for the football team.
I want to
Nice.
And we can have all the players judge the meat.
Oh,
That'd
that'd
be really
good.
fun.
That'd be
idea.
fun. That'd be a good
Yeah.
building thing.
Oh yeah, they'd get really into it. Patrick
would.
would love it. So that's how we met Scott. He's the head football coach now for the Steamboat Sailors, and our son's been playing football since we moved here. So fun times. All right, this is a little bit about Scott. Scott, amazingly enough, before he became a football coach and a counselor, was a chef for 24 years, mainly working in resort hotels. He also spent 5.5 years at the Foundry Treatment Center, which is a great treatment center here in Steamboat Springs. First, he was a chef and then as operations manager. He is now currently one of our high school counselors. He is the head football coach, like I said. He has a couple of degrees in culinary arts, hospitality management, BA in business, and he's currently working on 2 master's degrees. Wow. I don't know.
a lot.
And
You're
I
a Renaissance man.
We have time for all that.
I have
The-
no idea.
Are you almost done?
I have no idea.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It sounds to me like you're never done
One day at a
with
time.
anything.
Yeah,
One day at a time.
Tell us about your dual masters. What are they in?
It's dual masters in school counseling and mental health. Started that last 2 Januaries ago. So I'm almost 2 years in, something like that. That's why I'm not a mathematician.
Is that something that's always like been on your heart or your radar that you wanted to do one day, or how did that come about that you started that journey?
Life. I think now that I look back and having time and age and wisdom, looking back, it's something that I've been moving towards, but it was never at the forefront. And it really started about 8 years ago with being a chef. I was here in Steamboat at the Sheraton, and I went through 2 layoffs in the matter of 6 months. And that was a really hard time. And being a husband, father, and like the man rules that come along with providing. And I grew up in the Midwest in Nebraska, and you had to provide for your family. And my idea of what was being a man was being the provider, and that was shaken up, and I had to reinvent myself. So I started a catering company, and my heart wasn't in it, and it only lasted for a little bit. But going through those layoffs, my mental health took a toll. And went into deep, dark depression, anxiety, guilt, shame. Like, why is this happening to me? And really drifted and went to a pretty dark place. And coming out of that, luckily I ended up becoming the chef at the Foundry. There's
Quite ironic.
yeah,
Ended
and
up there.
and luckily substance abuse was never an issue, but it was the mental health side. And so working there and working with men going through addiction. And I just found I've always been good with people. And at that time, little bit before that, I'd started coaching football, and just sort of priorities were changing. And I found for me, and I think it goes for a lot of people, you build this identity around your job and what you do.
Yes.
And that's what I had done. When we met back then, if you guys asked me how I was doing, I'm like, I'm doing great. Work is busy.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jenny's doing this, the kids are doing this, or, it wasn't the personal side. It was the professional side. I thought of myself as a chef. And even today, I go to the store and I'll see people like, chef, how are you? And it's still part of who I am. But when that was taken away, I was like, who am I? And so the time at the foundry, I was able to sort of really reevaluate who I was. And I went to therapy and had to get some help with that. Not enough, should have gone more, to be, transparent on that. But it was my journey. It was what I needed to go through. And now that I look back on it, it was the best thing for me. And really reevaluating who I am as a man. And I got to learn how to provide in different ways other than financial. And that's what I was brought up, being that guy. And so how do I provide for my family, or my kids or myself in a different way? And it was to prop Jenny up so she could be successful and help with the kids and do different things. And so it really came down to my foundation was I want to be a husband and father first and foremost.
I love that.
Yeah.
And
thank you for being honest about that too.
yeah, absolutely. And it's part of what drives me today and what sort of led down this path of becoming a counselor and wanting to do that more. I was already working with kids. But when I found that foundation, it was like, okay, I need a why. Everybody talks about what's your why? And for me, it really came down to, I want to be the guy that I needed when I was going through my dark place for somebody right now. Okay, here I am. I'm just open to it and I listen and accept it and lean into it and honor it and all of those things. Fast forward my 5 years at the foundry, saw a lot of stuff, and was able to, I think, help make an impact while I was there. And then I was laid off again 2 Novembers ago. God works in mysterious ways. And at the time, I'm like, I'd already been through 2, so it didn't mess me up. I was like, sweet, I'm going to go do something.
Been here, done that.
Yeah.
And ended up at the Grand and ended up being their chef last winter. And going into Christmas season, I was like, I don't know if this is for me anymore. I'm good at what I do. I've been doing this for 24 years and I'm good at it, but it's not fulfilling. And over Christmas time, the kids had 17 days off and I think I had 3. And one of them was Christmas and I got called in. I was like, nope. And I went in. I had to go do the job. But Jenny and I started praying on it. I'm like, I need to do something different. This is that proverbial why in the road. Which way am I going to do? What's next? Well, 2 years or the year and a half before that, so I had my 2 AA degrees in culinary arts and hospitality management. Like, I want to get a bachelor's. I need to go back to school and start building towards something. So I had 3 years. I needed to do 3 years of school to get my bachelor's. And I took 92 credits in 5 months and 3 weeks.
I remember that thinking, what in the world is he doing?
It was insane.
He was getting through it. He wanted to get over with it.
Yeah.
Get it over with.
And it's funny because I started on February 1st. And each, segment of school was 6 months. So February 1st to July 31st was 6 months. Well, football started on July 31st. I was like, I need to be done for football. And that's where my focus needs to be. So I set my mind to it.
That was your motivation.
And I was like, I want to be done with it. And so I knocked it out. But that laid the foundation for being able to get my master's. So when I was laid off, and I was, and then we prayed about it. I'm like, okay, maybe, what if I get a master's? What if I become a counselor? And started looking into it. Like, yeah, enroll. And so it was like, done.
Did you, being the football coach and working with teens, push you further into wanting to get the counseling?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm going into my 8th year of coaching. And it had an impact, just being around kids. And it goes back to that why of how can I be the person I needed? Well, it doesn't have to be right now. I get to make an impact and teach and love on these kids And hopefully when their husbands, fathers, significant others later on down in life, they're going to look back, and when life hits them in the face, which it's going to happen,
Yes.
there's going to be something that happens. They may be able to look back and be like, Coach Prismus talked about it. I'm prepared.
I love this. Okay, as a mom of 3 boys, and they've all played football and other sports, you realize how important their coaches are and what they are saying to them on the field. That's who they're listening to, because mom and dad go, wah, 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 wah.
Right.
Their coaches, they're listening to them. Their coaches are making them do the runs, the sprints, and then they're saying, you've got this. This is how you can improve. You guys are better. They are listening to every word that comes out of their coaches' mouths in high school, and they're not listening to us anymore. So for them to have teachers, counselors, coaches who really love and care for them,
huge.
Jeff
it's
still
phenomenal.
talks about his football coach still to this day.
I still talk to my football coach. It goes back to when I had these type of men or mentors, some not just men, but coaches that were laying the foundation long before I got into this. And I still talk to them. We text weekly.
I still talk to my 5th grade and 6th grade teacher. She was both. And her name was Mrs. Williams. Now I know her as Linda Williams because we're friends now. She was that person that I needed back in the day that really encouraged me and helped me during some rough times, and just came from such a loving, amazing, nurturing place. And I always held a near and dear place in my heart for her. And then fast forward years later, thanks to Facebook, we got back connected, and she's still one of the most encouraging, most amazing people in my life to this day. But I got to tell her how important she was to me, and how the things that she said have resonated with me and have been of a great importance to me throughout my life. And that was 5th and 6th grade.
That's cool.
It's so cool. Yeah.
How are kids coming to you? Are you seeing them more showing up on the football side or in your counselor role?
Both. The cool thing is having dual roles in the school and being the only male in the counseling office. I make a point to be out in the hallways and greeting kids in the morning, and they get to see me in a different light. So they may know me, from times where I might be yelling on the football field, but they get to see the soft, vulnerable, more empathetic side of me too. So that helps break down some stigmas around football and around counseling and talking and vulnerability. And if I'm seeing students that aren't part of my alphabet, or they just see me around and they may, hey, can we talk? Yeah, absolutely.
I think too, like you said, being a male in the school, I think that's really important, especially for young boys. Sometimes they feel more comfortable coming to talk to a male than maybe a female.
Can you tell us what are some of the struggles that our high school kids are dealing with?
It runs the gamut. As mothers, you worry about your kids and some of the decisions that their friends might be making. It ranges from, unfortunately, drugs and alcohol to anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. It runs the gamut in this community. There's a lot of compare and contrast between families, and we live in a great area, and not to the haves and haves nots, but there is, why can't we do that? They're going here, why can't we do this? And that's a whole nother layer that a Midwest town may not face.
It's the upper class versus the working class, really.
Yeah.
And it is pretty extreme. There's the extremes here.
There's the really high, and then there's the low. And as a teenager, just trying to put myself into their shoes, young woman, young man, and these friend groups, but then all of a sudden they're going off jet setting the world or wherever it might be. And that's like, oh, and I feel a little bit less than. And it's unintended. It's not, I don't think it's intentional, but especially in today's society with social media and that instant gratification and Instagram, Instaface, whatever you want to call it.
Insta chat.
Chat snap and all these other things. they see the glamour side of things, but they don't see undercurrents. And the kids that are getting to do those things, they have their own problems too.
Right.
You don't know what's happening behind the fancy stuff in the
Mm-hmm.
camera and stuff like that. So last winter, when I was working 80 hours a week, it was crazy. But I was working on the masters, and I was happy to be there because I knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel. But I was able to make an impact on the people around me then. I was going to try to leave it better than before I left, and I didn't know when I was going to leave. And from a faith standpoint, and looking back and honoring what God has done, and we had a hard summer here last year with the loss of Jesse Hamrick, and I remember the beginning of June, I had received a text that there was going to be a position open at the high school. Fantastic. And I had turned down some other jobs ahead of that time because it didn't feel right. And this one all of a sudden was, let's do this. And interviewed, and that ended up being about a week and a half, 2 weeks before Jeff passed. And I was already in the works of being in the school. And being able to come into the school and ended up becoming the head coach, and being able to be there and be a strong presence and be vulnerable and lead through that. What was powerful and sad and hard and all the things, but there was a purpose behind it. And I was placed there for a reason. I honor that, and I lean into that every single day. And it doesn't even feel like working. That's my fun place. I think last year, before even working at the school, I spent more time at the school than my job sometimes, just because I wanted to be there.
I love that. I
Don't
love
feel
how
like everybody could say that.
Yeah.
About their job and purpose.
Well, it's what's interesting is some of our talks before were what their passion was for, and then realizing the passion kind of wears off and you start to realize what your purpose is. And then our community it's kind of like this miraculous way of putting people where they need to be. Because to have you I didn't realize that you got the job just before Jesse passed away. So people who don't know, our quarterback had just graduated high school, and his dad is the principal and was the head football coach. He was assistant coach then, Scott was. And we lost Jesse 4th of July last summer in a very tragic lake accident, which affected the whole school. And once again, this is a major loss that it just affected the whole community greatly, because we are such a tight community. And to lose a child is just a whole nother level of really major, major grief for so many people. And the kids don't understand it. So it is quite miraculous that you had kind of stepped into that role. And then you already had the relationship with the kids.
Yeah.
And that was huge. Being able to slide into that, or be put into that position, and be able to lead from a place of vulnerability. You guys know me pretty well. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I speak my mind, but I love. And being able to do that, and the kids, they saw us cry, they saw the coaches cry, and we weren't ashamed of it, and we leaned into that. We're going to show masculine vulnerability. We're going to love on each other, and we're going to take care of each other, have the hard conversations in the right way. And it was beyond the football field too. It was in the hallway, because I, having conversations with drama and all the clubs and all the kids and special relationships in the special ed department, and really trying to spread that throughout the entire school and bring it together. And not to say that it wasn't, but I get to add a little bit of flair to that, and put a little bit more touch, and get to see it from a new lens, because I haven't been in education that long. I get to bring a whole new freshness to it, and put my spin on it, and what do I want to see?
Right.
Yeah. Perfect timing.
That should be the name of your book, Beyond the Football Field.
That's what Jenny says. Beyond the field.
You're going to write it.
I keep saying defend the boat, but
You're a hardcore coach.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Jenny says beyond the field.
It's going to be your book.
How did the kids do as you saw them going through the healing and acceptance parts? And I know, everyone came to his funeral. all the boys showed up, the football team, but not just that, the whole baseball team, the snowboard club, everybody came. And I know coming back to school was probably really hard for everybody. How did the kids do?
I felt like they handled it extremely well, given the circumstances. And I think it had to do with the open conversations that we had. And I couldn't be prouder of a lot of these young men because they would come and talk one-on-one. And they would, hey, I need to struggle to talk. And that was something that I had not really seen a ton before. There's kids that do it, but I was seeing it from students and kids that it wasn't normal.
Right. But they were really affected.
And I'm glad I was there.
Well, you created that space for them to come do that.
Yeah. And it helps being the counselor. It creates this, I have to walk the boundaries pretty well. And I think I do a good job of that, but it just shows them, my soft side, and they could have that, and there's trust, and they know I'm going to be hard on them too. They know that at the end of the day, they know I love them, which is the most important. I couldn't do it if there wasn't good relationships, and I could have the hard conversation.
I think it's amazing you come from such a place of like faith, and you really can show your grace and compassion. I think that plays a huge part in it because it's an extra, something that you can offer.
Thank you. And speaking on that, I drifted for a while. I'm coming back into it. It took that 8 years, and it never went away, but I had to rediscover. I had to go down my own little journey and come back into it. And in the last year and a half, I can see the works. I see where it's at.
Like that was your time and opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't that what all these life experiences do for us? Forces us to grow. And we do drift.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
Some people choose
You're right.
not to.
You're right.
To stay in the negative space.
Yes, you're right.
So that's the hope.
What do you want to do with this dual master's degree? Where do you see yourself going?
I see myself being in schools. I started off with the dual masters because the other part of my, the dual, I have the school counseling, and I want to be in schools, and I want to coach, and I want to have that impact. And the reason for the dual is if I ever decided to have a private practice or something along that lines, I could do that. And being 24 years in restaurants and food and beverage, there's a need in there, and being able to speak that language and be able to walk back into kitchens and go into kitchens, restaurants, hotels, into the hospitality industry, and be able to speak the language and know what the struggles are. It could give me a unique approach and be able to break down stigmas that come from kitchens. They're hard places, and when I was growing up, it was almost like a pirate ship. When I was coming up in young kitchens, there's drugs and alcohol, and there's all kinds of stuff. You could get into all kinds of trouble, and I've seen it all. And I've lost a lot of friends from substance abuse and suicide.
Well, we're talking about, this is combined. So we just watched, we keep talking about it, but the Paradise Paradox that we went to at the high school. And we live in a resort town, and it's very heavy on restaurants, and then the ski resort lifties. And these issues are being in a kitchen and in the restaurant industry is one thing. And then being in a resort town, I think, takes it to a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
Double layer there.
Absolutely.
So that's a great place for you to hone in on. That's your kind of happy place. It's your natural environment.
Absolutely.
Did you ever picture yourself doing this, like at the start of your career? Were you always geared towards the youth and counseling just from your friends and stuff?
Out of high school, I wanted to go into the military, and they said I was too big, so I didn't get in. And ended up, when I got into culinary, I was working in South Dakota, and one day I ended up in the kitchen, and I never left. I was like, I'm going to go culinary school. And for me, it wasn't because of the creative side. It was a trade that I was really good at, and I could cook and I could create and do all that stuff. But it was just something I was naturally inclined. I was good at it. I like fast-paced, hot environments, and so I ended up being stuck there and never really thought anything of that until the layoffs, and then really trying to redefine myself and what am I going to do next? I can't do this forever.
I have
It's
a silly
amazing.
question that I always wonder when I watch football coaches. I personally, I don't know how you handle the pressure. Like, I don't know how all football coaches don't drop dead of a heart attack, because just watching you out there, like it feels one way in the stands, but then how are you handling it on the field? Like, do you go home after all jazzed up and hyped up and you have to come down from this like adrenaline rush?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It is, but it's before the game, I'm good. During the game, like there's a couple games last year where I was like, we're going to win this, and we didn't. But I have all the confidence in the kids. We work hard and we try to prepare them the best that we can. I can't explain it. It's just calm and serene, and
So you don't get all
I yell and but
animated.
Oh,
I'll
I'll try to take a ref out.
Right.
I'll get animated, and I want to see the kids perform at their best, and that's where it comes from. And at the end of the day, they're going to make the plays, and coaches are going to lose the game.
Yeah. I
You
just
do
could
great,
never
because as a
handle it.
mom in the stands, I scream and I come home and I need all of Saturday to like recoup my voice.
Exactly. That's
Oh,
what
I am
that's what
so
I'm
stressed
saying.
out the
Like,
whole
how
time.
they're not just this ball of anxiety all the time.
I think the amount of preparation we put in throughout the week.
That's true. You know the backstory.
Yeah, and I put in so much work. By the time it gets to the game, it's like, okay,
Just execute it.
yep.
Let's go.
And then things happen, and I try to stay with
Check you out. She's getting riled up right here.
Let's go. I'm invested.
Do this.
I'm definitely a sports.
She's a cheerleader.
You ever need an assistant coach right here?
No, I can't handle it. I wouldn't be able to handle the pressure.
I think you could.
And there's times where I'm cracking jokes with the kids, just trying to lighten the mood a little bit because they get in their own heads, and I try to do a little counseling in there. And
Or some get so upset and mad and
uh-huh.
kick stuff and throw stuff, which I understand, but you have to deal with that too.
Oh, absolutely. And we're all competitive, or else it wouldn't be very much fun. We're competitive. We want to win. We want to do it the right way. And when kids start having those reactions, I think of it as an opportunity to teach them how to handle adversity in life, because a football game is very much a microcosm of life, and things are going to happen. And so we talk about, okay, next play. Okay, that play's over. What's the next play? Clear your mind, get to that place. And that's just like in life.
Yeah.
Something happens. Okay, what are the facts? What do we know? What don't we know? What can we control? Okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Do you have a hard time taking your work home with you, or can you leave it at the door or at the school or at the field?
Football or counseling?
Both. Either.
I think I'm living in my happy place, so I think it's always going to come with me home, but not in a negative place.
Well, good.
So like, in comparison to as a chef, when I'm worried about budgets and all that other stuff, that's stress and anxiety and all of that stuff that, running a business has, that would go home, and then not in a good way, but I'm able to go home and look at football and plan for next year and think about counseling and do my schoolwork and love on my kids and take care of Jenny and all of those things without it really affecting it.
I'm really happy for you. I really am.
too. I cannot stand this when I hear this line of, I'm so scared for our future because look at our kids, or look at these 20-year-olds. Oh, I'm so scared. And here I am, a mother of, I'm like, my kids are great. And you know what I'm telling my kids? If you work hard, you're going anywhere you want. You can have any job you want. You can work your way up. I don't understand this. Why? And I don't think we should be saying this because it puts a negative connotation on our children and what their future is. What do you see working with the kids in the high school, counseling on the football field that gives you hope for our future?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a great question. These are great kids, and they're...
Thank you.
That's a great question.
What I see is a generation that is facing difficulties and not necessarily difficulties, but influences that we did not have to face.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people say that this generation, I think those individuals are blind to the fact that they lived in a different time. The generations now have they have influences that could be used good or bad.
Right.
They could be used as tools to better or tools to make worse. And the majority of them are choosing to go the right way. And we have brilliant kids in our school, and they're artistic and they're smart, and all these different avenues that they could pursue. I think it's bright. And I don't think we give them enough credit for that.
That's great to hear.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, being new in the education, and I don't have blinders on. I don't have all these years of same old stuff. Let's give the kid a chance. Let's love on him a little bit, and maybe what we're doing is not working. Let's try something different.
Build them up.
Yeah.
You could teach workshops for the people who have lost their fire, maybe to like hype them up, like use your coaching skills to start. I'm not even kidding.
So she's
start
creating
teaching.
all kinds of new things for you.
Yeah,
A book
now-
with a title.
You've got some work to do.
You got to finish your master's.
And then you've got to create these workshops that help.
There we go.
Renew,
The old worn
because-
out counselors.
Yeah, well, and
Renew
no,
their
but
passion.
also in teachers.
New tricks.
Let's face it, teachers too, and just everybody in the education system. But it's really cool that you get this perspective where you come with you're like a breath of fresh air, and you have it things, and you have this like whole new perspective, and that you're like this excitement, and that's really a cool energy to bring. And with your wisdom and your age, that's really cool because people can look at you in that fire and that light and be inspired and be like, man, I remember when I used to feel that way. And how do I get that back?
Yeah, makes you more relatable as well.
And something that popped in my mind when you're saying that, like when I was a chef, I was probably that grumpy person. I was probably that burnout, and sometimes it's change of scenery. It's something. So, they've fought the battles for a long time, and I try to keep that in perspective too, with the kids and with everybody else.
That's a good point.
Like that. This is where when you get laid off, if you can, any major life change it's an opportunity for us to step back, reevaluate,
Reset.
go get the dual masters, and anyone can do it. And how many people have we met doing these master's programs and they're in their late 40s, early 50s? I don't know how old you are, Scott. We don't have to go there. But we did just celebrate Liana's 50. We keep talking about
Happy
it.
Things.
But
It's
yes,
awesome.
it's great. With age comes so much wisdom and maturity, and people can go back to school and they can create a whole new life for themselves and find a whole new purpose that
Instead of
go to
feeling
work every day and feel like they're not bringing
stuck.
work home,
or
they're
instead of
happy.
feeling stuck, which
yeah.
so many people, I've heard so many people say, "Oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I would have done that." And I look at them like, "Well, why
Do it.
can't you?" And it's like those life pressures and the pressures that you just said you put on yourself as a man. You're supposed to. You do that curse of the should of curse. I should do this and I should do that, but what would you be best at? Is the question that people should be answering.
Being at the school, the teachers are great, and the amount of love that I see that they have for the kids and the work that goes on behind the scenes, I wish everybody could see, because I think we're in a unique situation in time and all the stuff where everybody's, I feel like we have a good thing going, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
I agree. It's a great place. I wish my older boys could have gone to school here and had a smaller community to be a part of. It was great. Their community was meant for them. But for my youngest son and his personality, this is what is going to launch him and to be the best version of himself. Just a smaller school. And I can tell that he's getting what he needs at school and gets it from his coaches. I mean, we're so happy. This was the place for him to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah, same for mine.
Fantastic.
Oh no, mine too. But I have a girl. I mean, Miles is 25. He did play football though, my son, and he shouldn't have because he's legally blind. So I never said no to any sport, but that's the sport that he ended up getting concussions. So his coaches were so amazing, supportive, and my son found a lot of confidence in playing. He was an amazing wrestler. So he found a lot of confidence in the sports and just the community here and the teachers. And they really rally around any kid that's struggling specifically. And you have all these eyes on your kids now. And because we see each other in church, we see each other at the grocery store. So everybody's very protective of everybody else's kids. And I think that's so amazing. That's something that I didn't get growing up in the city. Actually, I ditched a month of school before anyone found out and told my mom. And I did so much that I forgot my locker combination. You know that nightmare that you have?
That happen all the time.
Yeah, I do too, but that really happened to me. But
you missed school for a month.
Because I missed school for a month. Anyway, so yes, I'm grateful for our small community who cares.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a story about what some of the kids that you have helped come onto the football team and hang out, and the football team embraces them? And
we've had a lot of unique opportunities in this past year. We had a student that he came out and the kids loved on him, and it was great. And he was part of the team the entire year and came in practice, and we were able to get him in to punt, and it was unique and special. And he'd go through the drills, and he'd do tackling drills, and the kids would fall down for him and things like that. And something I have planned for next year to take that even further is I'm going to try to work with our special ed department and have those students come out and be honorary captains during our 4 home games, so they could do coin toss.
Amazing.
Oh, I love that.
Just trying to find more
good for
ways for
you.
everybody to participate and be a part of what we're doing, because I truly believe what we're doing is special and unique, and trying to lead in a different way.
Well, as a mom, I appreciate that you're teaching our boys to have empathy and compassion, and then inclusion.
Yeah.
Like, all of these people have their own story, and we're all different, and we can all hang out together. We can all play the same sport. We can practice together, and
Yeah.
it's phenomenal.
How old are your kids?
I have a 19-year-old son that's going to school at Pace University in New York, and then I have a 12 and an 8, all boys.
Mm-hmm.
So has your education and learning what you learned through all these schools helped you in that department? Like something that you wouldn't have known or done before, but now coming with the knowledge?
Father role?
Yeah, in your father role.
A little bit. Maybe I'm a little softer. Probably not much. They wouldn't say that. No, it has helped. But at the end of the day, for them, I'm still dad, and I'm going to father how I think is best for each child, and I'll take it. But I think one thing that I could do better about is when I go home, like everybody goes home, they want to let their hair down a little bit, and I may get a little flustered more.
Right.
And we're at home, and that's our safe place.
Right.
And we love hard and all of those things.
Everybody should be able to have a not so perfect side, as well, and learn how to navigate that as well. So, we're not always on our A game.
No. And I think that's how I parent, and I want to make decisions as a father that protect and grow and teach my boys. And one of the best things for them is being around the football team. They've been around, like I said, I'm going on 8 years, and Riker's 8. So he's been around it since he was born, and Ethan's been around since he was 4, and they wander the field and get lost. And
I do love seeing your boys out there.
Yeah, I do too.
Ball boy. And they get to be around, the coaches. The coaching staff is great, and being able to be around them. And having strong male figures other than myself, because they get to see my flaws at home. But they get to hang out with these other guys that could give them, different types of love that, or advice or whatever it is. As they grow, they're going to be influences on their life.
Right.
And being around the boys, they love being around the players.
Being around the high school boys.
Yeah. And so it's good for them.
I love that.
I thought I'd be some big executive chef of a ski resort or whatever, but then life happens, and I'm in this whole, in a matter of a year and a half, I'm in this shift and in a whole new career doing what I absolutely love. And I don't think he's done. I think the impact and I'm, I was saying it earlier, I lean into it and I honor it. And every single day it's like, okay, what's next? Who can I help next?
Well, we know what's next. A book and workshops.
And workshops. I already told you. I don't understand why you're questioning it.
And Coleridge on August 22nd.
Yes. Coleridge, we're going down.
I just gave you your agenda. Gosh.
Yes.
So that's really cool because that goes back to the saying of God slams one door and opens another. Do you think you would have done this shift if you wouldn't have gotten laid off?
Probably not.
You would have just been comfortable and stayed.
I think it would have taken a lot longer. I may have ended up in this spot. But at that time, I wasn't 100% sure exactly when I finished the bachelor's, okay, what I'm going to do with this. I wasn't sure of what that next step was. And then that layoff happened. And being in the situation, like, okay, let's pull the trigger and let's go.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. And then I look back and God's hands are all over the last 8 years to put me to where I'm at. And I feel like because of what I've gone through and all of those things, I could look back and recognize it. I don't think everybody can recognize when that work is being done and be able to honor it as much. And I think it prepared me for, the circumstances of the summer and the fall.
Right. And it takes time. People have to remember it's taken you some time to be able to look back at the 8 years and say, oh, there was a grand plan. And I'm glad that I stayed on task.
Absolutely. And what that task is, you don't know. That's
no, you take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
The next play.
Yep.
And don't be afraid of closed doors. Closed doors are a blessing.
Absolutely.
They're so scary at the time.
Those first two, the Sheraton and Casey's Pond, that back to back, that the depression, all that stuff, that led to more growth in me personally. That was unexpected because I was so focused on, what do I need to do to provide? I learned how to provide different. You have to shift. You have to change your perspective. Or hourglasses, I like to say, I have to change my prescription on things.
Yeah.
Right. I love that.
That's a good.
I love the lenses, how we look at life too.
Yeah.
It's always shifting.
It's so important, especially for men, to hear that from another man. I think they hold a lot of responsibility, even just not by someone else. That's just their own personal weight that they put on their shoulders, probably from being raised by the generations of that's just what they did.
Yep.
So if you did anything less than that, then you were lesser of a man, which is so not true.
Definitely not true. And the vulnerability for me really shifted when I read the definition. And the definition I'd read was to open yourself up to physical and emotional attack. And that was like, what? And I had to just go back and reread it. To open yourself up to physical and emotional attack. Well, put that over here with that's vulnerability. And then over here you have what's to be a man. I have to be strong and big and stoic and all these things. But to be vulnerable, to open yourself up to physical and emotional attack, you have to be strong, you have to be courageous, you have to be bold, you have to be all of these things. They're actually like sort of yin and yang, and so that's masculine vulnerability. I'm like, heck, I can do that. I can be strong, courageous, and bold, and I can teach vulnerability. I'm still a man. I'm strong. I'm courageous. I'm bold. I'm making moves. I'm doing things, thinking about how I can protect or provide or all these things, but I can be vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah, you started seeing through the lens of these are not my failures. These doors closing are not my failures. These are new opportunities.
Yeah.
So good for you to pick that up and roll with it like you did.
Can't wait to read your book.
Beyond the
Am I gonna
field.
get? Are we gonna get a dedication in your book? Because
Endorsement.
come on.
Signed copies.
What did we decide? Beyond the field?
Beyond the field.
Fields. Jenny's going to be pleased
That
with
was
that.
Jenny's.
Okay, good. We'll take credit with Jenny.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining us. You're such a cool part of the community. I'm so glad you're in our kids' life. So glad you're in the high school. I'm so thankful you're on the football field with my son.
Thank you so much, and thank you to you three ladies for having a platform like this to be able to have these conversations and allowing me to have a small piece of it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Go Sailors.
See you on the field.